So the two most expensive players on the slate are Kevin Durant at 11,600, who, by the way, just got ruled questionable, and Steph Curry at 11,500. So DK users are likely going to have to make this decision tonight. Are you going to chase one, fade the other? Perhaps you're taking this questionable ruling into consideration, Garion.
Yeah, I will say right off the top, I know it's not in the spirit of the game, but this is a slate where you really could start a lineup with Durant and Curry and just figure it out. There is so much value. We'll get to that in a second on this 3-gamer, just with the amount of guys who've been ruled out. But in a vacuum, if Durant actually ends up playing in this game, I think he's the better option. Even before we found out this morning that 4 more Nets were being added to the COVID protocols, including 2 starters on the wing in James Johnson and DeAndre Bembry. I mean, Durant's just playing so much for a guy who's just like 2 years removed from Achilles injury. In his last 9 games, he leads the NBA in minutes played, 39.8 per game. And he's averaging almost 1.4 DraftKings points per minute. So when someone's just logging that much volume and is still as hyper efficient as Durant is, I know the narrative is behind Curry tonight, but I do just think Durant's the better play if he actually ends up being active.
Nick F., do you agree with that?
I don't actually. I'm going to go with Steph Curry. And generally speaking, I'm going to lean Steph Curry over Kevin Durant as much as he's getting those minutes, just because I know Curry had a couple of games where he was a little bit off, but he's been very reliable this season from a scoring perspective when you look at his salary. And honestly, I looked at, the efficiency of these two teams. And I know the Raptors, not an immensely efficient team, but the Knicks are among the 10 least efficient teams on the defensive end this season. And Toronto also moves at a slower pace too. I know there's going to be more opportunities for Durant with guys out tonight. And again, he is in question. If Harden plays tonight, I still like Steph Curry in this one too, because the one thing about the Knicks, I know they're 11th best in terms of DK fantasy points allowed to opposing point guards this season, but they're 8th worst in points allowed to opposing point guards. And obviously that's where Curry, makes his money. And then you look at how Curry's done at the Garden throughout the course of his career too, very efficient shooting, both inside the arc and beyond. Obviously we're looking at beyond the arc more so with him. And then in terms of his, just counting stats, 25.9 points per game and 4.9 assist points per game at the Garden throughout his career.
All right, Nick W., what do you think? KD or Steph?
Well, I was prepared to make the case for KD. We'll see if he ends up playing in this game, with all the COVID issues in Brooklyn and apparently, this right ankle issue that he's dealing with. It wouldn't be shocking if they just kind of pack it in and say, all right, we're giving you the night off. And if we lose this one, so be it. But, I think if Durant plays, he's certainly the safer option. It gives you more diverse contributions, when you're talking rebounds, what he can do defensively. Steph right now, obviously more of an offensive focused player. And the points that Garion made, especially with if Durant plays, he's really has no help on this roster outside of James Harden. And somewhat, that's been the case. That's kind of how this roster has been constructed from the start. But it's become even more extreme over the last few weeks. I think a lot of the guys that they thought they were going to get more contributions from, someone like a Blake Griffin, those just really haven't been there. So it's really been all Kevin Durant. And if he plays, I think that continues. The thing that worries me a little bit too with Curry is, obviously he's a great option, but I think he is pressing a little bit these last few games as he approaches the 3-point record. Chances are he smashes it early in the game and maybe things, kind of revert back to normal for him. But I think he's been pressing a little bit offensively in terms of shot selection. He has 2 games under 40 DraftKings points in his last 3. That's obviously uncharacteristic for Steph Curry. So maybe he gets the record out of the way and it's smooth sailing from there. But, I think we could see, at least a little bit of a different mindset for him to begin this game.